Digital gramophone makes no sense.
All right, guys. So here today to do my my vinyl tag 2020. Don't really have anything else to say. Just so we'll get right into it. All right, best find of 2019. Well, it wasn't really that hard to find because Dylan posted it on Instagram, and I just messaged him right away, and he held on to it for me. And it's this 1969 press of the Stooges. And the cover has seen better days. I don't know for how long, but it did at some point. But the vinyl is in VG Plus condition, and that's being conservative. So it's not a first, but it's an early. But there's the Big E red label. Yeah, so anyway, favorite album from 2019. Well, you know, I did a video, favorite albums, and it was Remind Me Tomorrow by Sharon Van Etten, and I talked about it twice already, so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to mention my favorite reissue of 2019, which was this from Elephant Six Recording Company, Are You Sleepy by the Gerbils. I was really excited when I saw this was getting repressed. I missed out on the Kickstarter, which was a very limited number of, I mean, almost every record that was pressed was going to be unique. Some kind of way they were doing the color variant of it. But either way, I was fine picking up this. Really excited. I've always loved this album. And then this, my favorite compilation from 2019. This was given to me as VCLB. That's right, we call it VCLB here in Charlotte. From Dean, Grandma's Handbag, Time. The Time for Peace is Now. This is off Luwaka Bop. It's David Byrne's label. And it's like a collection of secular gospel songs. I love it. It's just really good music. I have kind of a, even though I'm not really a religious person, I have a soft spot in my heart for gospel, really good gospel, so was glad to get that. Okay, novelty record. Now, I don't have a lot of that. What was it Dave said? I don't mix comedy with music, with my music, or something. It's like, fuck that question or whatever. I do have, I think that Chipmunks Christmas is a novelty album, but this one I decided to highlight. It's probably the only other thing in my collection that I have that's not even really for me. I bought this record before Sam turned one, but like a good bit, months after he was born. And it's called This Record Belongs To. It was put out by Light in the Attic, and this is a later reissue, or a later press of it, repress of it. It's like a holiday edition. So I bought it at Christmas time. I guess I bought it for Christmas before he turned one. But yeah, anyway. And I'm holding on to it. That's why it's sealed. I'm holding on to it to give it to him when I think he's ready for a record player. I was hoping it'd be sooner than later, but the kid's still climbing the walls. Yeah, and I call it novelty because it's inspired by like the Golden books, you know, the little Golden Book series. Everybody had those as a kid, and it's like a storybook that goes along with this record. And there's a bunch of cool artists on here. Homage record. First one that I thought about, I'm not even sure if it's really an homage, And I wonder if, as I have researched it and I have not been able to find anything that there's proof that it is. But this album, the Blue Album by Weezer, when I discovered this album some years later, like in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, I discovered this album, The Feelies, their Crazy Rhythms from 1980. I love this album. And when I saw it, I was like, it looks like the Blue cover. So, but I've never, all these years later, I've never been able to find any proof. And it's probably right up under my nose. So if anybody knows that that's true. But that one I always think of when, I think this question's kind of come up before and other things. But so the other one that I know is a direct homage is homage, however you want to say it. Sleater-Kinney's Dig Me Out is a visual reference to the Kink Controversy, which I have, but I don't have that press, that cover. So, okay, B-side. I don't have a ton of 7 inches and or 45s, and the ones that I do have don't really have strong B-sides. The closest one that I could think of was, this was one of the Bruce 7 inches that Mazzy sent me as a bonus for his contest bonus prize. So it's One Step Up, and the B-side is Roulette, which has always been one of my favorite of the favorites off of the Tracks compilation. But I did have a good deep cut in mind, and a lot of times most people consider a deep cut to be on the second side of an LP. But I just kind of, and if that's the definition, then I'm not doing this right. But a deep cut to me has always been one that's just a song that's lesser known, but that resonates with you. And this the second track off of Faces First Step is called Devotion, and it's one of my 3 favorite Faces songs. I absolutely love that song. It's a slow like R&B ballad that involves vocal. I mean, it's mostly Rod Stewart on it, and there's some Ronnie Lane steps in for a second. But like, it's just such a gorgeous track, and you really, if you listen to that song, that's where you really hear the Sam Cooke come out in Rod Stewart. Something that I don't think enough people really pay attention to about him. He was such an incredible vocalist, especially with the Faces. I know that he screwed stuff up later on and put out a bunch of shitty music, but he was on point back then. Something funky, going with the Meters, Lick a Pie Pie, love this album. This was the one that got me into them. A buddy of mine that was a musician back when we were in high school and into early years of college. He turned me on to this. Weird Shelf Buddies. So I've recently been reorganizing my collection. I'm still in the middle of it. I've been breaking it out into genre. So it used to be all alphabetical, and so that would have made for more obvious Weird Shelf Buddies. So what I did was, I couldn't think of any right off the bat, so I just started at A in the rock section and went until I found something that I thought was weird. Chicago's Greatest Hits. Right beside Church's The Bones of What You Believe. I was there. So I have an album where I was at that show, but it's on CD. So instead, I'm just gonna tell a live story, and it's kind of like, I don't know, an interesting one to me. In 2000, from 2009 to 2011, I was really into this band that was based out of Chapel Hill and Durham, Raleigh area, here in North Carolina, called The Love Language. They eventually got signed to Merge, and this was their debut on Merge, and they were touring for this album. They were playing a hometown show at Cat's Cradle in Chapel Hill, and they told everybody, they sent an email out and posted on Facebook and stuff like that. They told everybody to get there early because they had a special surprise. So I did. I got there early. I was with a friend of mine at the time. I don't really talk to him much anymore. And my future wife was there with me. And we were standing in the crowd waiting for the show to begin, and I saw Eric Bachman walk through the doors. Eric Bachman is the lead singer of Archers of Loaf fame, Crooked Fingers, his own solo stuff. And he lives in, at the time, lived in Chapel Hill. So it was kind of common to see him around town, and he had popped, I just was assuming he had popped his head in for the show. And then the next thing I know, 3 guys get up on stage, and then he was the last one, the 4th guy to get up on stage. And he picked up a guitar and he stepped up to the mic, and they went right into Audio Whore. And it was a surprise Archers of Loaf reunion show. This is a reissue of their first album, Icky Metal, on Merge Records. And so yeah, it was surprise Archers of the Loaf reunion. It was really fucking cool. And I was stoked. They rocked so much so that the Love Language got up on stage, and Stuart McLand, the lead singer, and really the main guy in Love Language, he steps up to the mic and he said, "We're pumped. That was incredible. We appreciate those guys doing that. And we're going to play really loud." And so this power pop, retro pop band, at least that's what they're known for, turned into a shoegaze band for a night. Blew my freaking eardrums out. It was insane. Okay, wish I had an OG. Now, I really don't care too much about original presses. Older records, I really like them, and I think they're really cool. And so if I see them, I will pick them up. Like I just picked up that Soft Machine. You know, albums from the 60s especially, or if I can find early presses of jazz albums, even though I'm a jazz novice, I'll pick them up, you know. But I'm never really on the hunt, and if I want an album that badly, I will settle for a repress and I will just get it. So I can't really think of one that I'm dying to have, so I would just instead say that I would really, because it's my favorite album of all time, I would really just like an OG mono of Beach Boys by the Pet Sounds. And some of you might be saying, well, that looks like it is one, and it is, but it's still pretty noisy. I got it for a good deal from Dylan, and it was in better shape than one that I had paid way too much for online and got ripped off. And so I would still, if I had to say that I wanted an original of any album, and it was really important to me, it would be this one. And I would love to have a nice minty copy of Pet Sounds on mono. Okay, so a discography you own, or someone that you own a lot of records by. Well, just by default, I own a ton of Neil Young albums, a ton of Bob Dylan albums, and a good amount of the Bowie albums. And that's just because their discographies are so long. And then I own discographies by a lot of bands that just put out maybe 4, maybe even 5 albums. But here's one, a band that I love a lot. And I have everything except for their debut. I don't even have it on CD. Their debut was called I Could Live in Hope. Came out in 1994, and it was the band Low. But from there, I have everything else. This is Long Division from 1995. Curtain Hits the Cast from 1996. Secret Name from 1998. Things We Lost in the Fire, 2001. Trust, 2002. Great Destroyer, 2005. Drums and Guns, 2007. Come On, 2011. The Invisible Way from 2013. Ones and Sixes from 2015. It's kind of on the outer sleeve. And then most recently, from 2018, an absolutely incredible album, Double Negative. And that's it. A unique center label. I have no idea what to... No idea. Everybody's shown every freaking record company and record label out there already. So I just went with this one that I could think of. This is a 96 or 97 press of Olivia Tremor Control's Dusk at Cubist Castle. And what's cool about it, now some of the presses came and they had colored labels, and this one has black and white labels. And I don't think it really means it's a promo. But each side, I guess your turn, has a different image, or yeah, sorry. And yeah, I mean, a lot of those Elephant Six acts, they had really cool album artwork, and the labels on a lot of them were really kind of cool. But I don't know, that's the only thing I could think of. Pre-band, I just couldn't think of one right off the top of my head. This band, you know, had some success, you know, so they weren't like super underground or anything, and but they were never as big as Motorhead. So I chose Hawkwind and Lemmy. You know, Lemmy went on to front Motorhead and became a lot more famous in that band. Okay, musical book. So, or movie. The movie, I will say, is I would highly recommend, I don't have a physical copy of it, but I would highly recommend, it's on Amazon Prime. If you have a Prime membership, you can watch it free. The documentary on Doug Sahm. It is so good. I'll put a picture of it up. So you can see the real title, because I can't remember what it is, but it is so good. I would highly recommend that. You know, one of the more underappreciated, appreciated by a lot of those of us that are music geeks and know our shit. We know Doug Sahm, but the world should know him more than they do. He was just incredible. So musical book, I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction. It's not a biography or an autobiography. I have a lot of those over there gathering dust on the shelf. I've been through that before. I will get to them, I promise. But I'm going with a book that's a memoir by Rob Sheffield, who is known, I think best known for his contributions to Rolling Stone as a writer and critic. This is a memoir called Love is a Mixtape, and it's a incredible book. It's autobiographical and focuses around the first love of his life and their love story, and it's very touching and a bit heartbreaking. So what's cool about it is every chapter at the beginning has a J card of a mixtape that he made. and it corresponds with a certain moment in time or a certain activity or something like that. I don't know. But it's really, really, really cool book, and I highly, highly recommend it. Underrated album. Oh man, I thought about going with some guys that were like, like legendary guys, like, an underrated album by Dylan or an underrated album by Neil Young or something like that. But instead, I decided to go with a newer band, and it's one that I know I've seen a lot of people reference out in the VC, and I know a lot of you guys are fans of theirs, and more in particular their last 2 albums, but the one that came out in 2011, Slave Ambient by The War on Drugs, is very underrated and often ignored or forgotten about because of these 2 newer albums. It has quite a different sound. There's still awesome guitar solos throughout, but this one's a little bit noisier. And it owes more to Sonic Youth than Dire Straits or whatever, their newer Tom Petty, like their newer albums do. But yeah, this is a really, really good album. And so if you're only familiar with their 2 more recent ones, don't hesitate to go backwards on this one. Even the one before it's really good. Batting average. This was difficult. I couldn't really decide who to go with, and so the one I decided to settle on was Teenage Fan Club. Killer, and yeah, I think killer. Same album, different cover. This one's going to be a bit obscure to many of you, but me and my buddy Elliot Cruz, Lazy Dog Records, we were talking about this band just the other day. The album is Rumors by the band Arrogance. Rumors, which came out in 1976, a year before the Mac released theirs in 77. So I don't think it had anything to do with that. Look at those guys. Those guys, I would not want to run into them in a dark alley. They would fuck you up for sure. It has the same back cover as this release, but this one is the UK press from the same year, both on Vanguard. Arrogance is a band out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina, kind of a cult favorite in the area. I will eventually be doing a video on them down the line. An album that you bought cheap, and is now worth a lot of money. Well, I didn't buy this necessarily cheap. I mean, I bought it for what, I don't know, $18 to $20, probably $20 when it came out. It's Jason Isbell in the 400 unit. I got it, I don't think I got it until 2010 actually, but now this thing goes online or on Discogs. I've seen it on Discogs go for as much as $250. I don't know why anybody would pay that much for this album.
Stumpy's replacement, Peter James Bond, he also died in mysterious circumstances. We were playing a
festival,
jazz blues festival. Where was that?
Well, blues jazz, really.
Blues Jazz Festival.
It was in the Isle of Lucy.
The Isle of Lucy.
Isle of
Jazz
Lucy.
and Blues Festival.
And it was tragic, really. He exploded on stage.
Just like that.
He just went up.
He just was like a flash of green light. And that was it. Nothing was left.
An album that turns 20. This is an album that I listened to a lot in the year 2000, and I still really like it. But anyway, it's Hour of the Bewilderbeast by Badly Drawn Boy, Damon Gough, or Go. It's G-O-U-G-H. Is a British artist. This is a really cool album, and he made another great album after this, soundtrack for the movie About a Boy, which was based on a Nick Hornby novel. It's a good movie too. But this album was really kind of special when it came out because it was post kind of the Brit rock thing from the early to mid to late 90s. And it didn't sound anything like that, but it was pre all of the other bands that came out in the early 2000s that were so inspired by Radiohead, like Coldplay and Starsailor and Muse and Doves and Elbow and bands like that. So this album has a unique sound on its own because his influences were more American, like Elliott Smith and Pavement, kind of the slacker aesthetic of Pavement, or Gastric Soul, or bands like that. Very, very cool album. I highly recommend it for those of you that have never heard it. I listened to this a ton in the year 2000, and I still will pull it out every once in a while. It's all over the place, but it's very, very cool. The songs are great, and it kind of like runs all together in this very interesting way. It's a shame he never really kind of kept it up. He kind of ran out of ideas, and never really adapted the way somebody like Beck did, which was another probably huge influence on him. But yeah, it's a cool album. All right, Trilogy. Let's just keep it simple and go with Run the Jewels. 1, 2, 3. All right, shout outs. I mentioned one already. Elliot Cruz is a buddy of mine now. Is a former North Carolina resident. Is a welcome addition to the VC. He's hosting a contest right now, so that's kind of why I'm mentioning him. So please enter his contest. The Vinyl Truffle, Merrick. Some of you already know him. He's got over 100 subscribers, but he's just a channel that I've just kind of recently discovered, and I've commented on a few of his videos, and he doesn't reply to me. So I guess he thinks I'm annoying as fuck or whatever, but who cares? I think he's still cool, and I like his channel, so I'm going to recommend it. Maybe I'll stop watching it eventually, but, who cares? The Music Ma'am, she just joined very recently, within the last week or so, I think. She commented on one of my my last video, and went and checked over to her channel, and she's really cool. Does not show any signs of nerves in front of the camera, and a welcome addition to the VC. Look forward to seeing more from her. So yeah, that's it, guys.